Did you give yourself the nickname the Dude, or did someone give that to you?
Well, there was a time in the in the mid '70s where everyone was calling each other dude, and I just remember one of my bosses at pizza was always calling everyone dude, and so I started calling everyone dude back. And at some point, I think a little switch flipped in my head that says, "Rude the dude." Hmm,
Nice
that sounds
ring.
kind of cool. I'm going to be the dude. So I thought that was kind of funny. So I just kind of kept on doing this amusing self-reverential thing by calling myself the dude. It sounded funny to me. It appealed to my sense of humor. So I always, luckily the word has never gone out of fashion. So,
I'm assuming most people think it's a reference to The Big Lebowski.
people brought it up to me at some point. I had never heard of the movie.
Hmm.
And I ended up finally seeing it like about 10 years ago. And I thought it was a horrible movie.
It's it's an
Uh,
acquired taste. Do you also approach your art this way as well, where you don't overthink it and you kind of just go with how you feel in the moment?
Well, I always like to cite the the three stages of learning, which I subscribe to. A lot of this came from my reading about Bruce Lee, who's a I'm a huge fan of and always will be. The first stage is getting on the bike. Second stage is falling off the bike. The third stage is being so confident in riding the bike you don't have to think about it anymore. So you need literally decades of training and education and a direct experience behind what you do if you're going to enable that to happen in a very natural kind of a way. You can't fake it, you can't rush it. It takes time. And I've spent 4 decades learning what I need to learn uh, in this comic book world, which I love so much. And I still give it enough thought to know that what I'm putting down in my thumbnails, which is what I always do before I begin the actual penciling, is about 98% of what I want.
Oh,
The other 2% just comes by way of getting in there and moving the pencil around. But it's planned out pretty specifically so that I know that what I've done, I can officially sign off as being worthy of my gifts in my experience. I learned early on that the more fearful I was about tackling something, the more I had to do it. So fear had to be abolished fairly quickly in my the pursuit of in getting what I wanted out of my artwork. There was no place to be afraid of anything. I think I was always somebody that was able to rely on instincts pretty thoroughly uh, very early on in my life. I didn't have a lot of the hesitations that some people had. I didn't have to do 1,000 versions of a thumbnail or I did it. I did everything I had to make it work, but no more, no more, no less. I never listen. I never watch movies when I'm working. I do listen to occasional talk radio and books on tape. I'm a big fan of books on tape.
hmm.
And there's always been an advantage that artists have over writers. Writers, based on the part of their brain that they're activating when they're writing, cannot listen to other voices distracting them as they attempt to think up the next word in their story. Artists use a different part of their brain. And I think if you were to hook an artist's brain up and a writer's brain up and play them the same kind of stuff, different parts would be activated in the brain. One that allows someone to listen to stuff, which is the artist, and the writer, not so much.
Hmm.
They'd have to turn it off and maybe just listen to music, something just nonverbal.
Yeah, I agree with that. You said that you turn down almost half of the commissions that you get.
Yeah,
Um, what does it take for you to say yes?
it has to be a character that I personally uh, think is a good character. if I see, if I get offered something from everything from a different company to a personal commission, if I think the costume is bad, give it to somebody that likes the costume.
Hmm.
Kirby characters always have a huge appeal to me because the inventiveness of the character and what they're attired with. Some are just, not within Steve Rude territory.
Mm-hmm.
If they're ugly looking, if they're grotesque, that's not my thing. I just recently got done doing a Frankenstein with somebody, which I did in an old-fashioned pen and ink style. That was a lot of fun. But I don't gravitate towards anything that's repulsive or gratuitously ugly. Like I don't draw girls with half their clothes ripped off. I might have done it one or twice, but hopefully it's got some good taste to it.
Right.
So I don't do things like that. But everyone that requests something from me, when they're requesting a female character, I can count on one finger how many times you don't see the word sexy in it. So they're always saying sexy pose of,
Yeah. But is there one character that you're fans of that you get the most requested for and the one that you always say yes to?
Well, for some reason, I have a problem with doing Batman. And I personally don't understand this within myself because he's everything that I like in costume design. So I don't understand that one. I just, there's something about it that just irks me. I couldn't tell you what it is. I always like drawing the girls. I love Supergirl, Wonder Woman, Sue Storm, Crystal from the Inhumans. An artist who has good training doesn't balk at any kind of a challenge presented to him. You're there to rise to the occasion. And if you have the education and experience to pull that off, you better show the world you're capable of doing that. Otherwise, I don't know how you can call yourself a real artist.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I like about being an illustrator. You've got to do a scene from a story, no matter what it takes, no matter how much research you have to do, a scene befitting what the author has scribed. And that's the mark of a great artist. And that's why I love my illustration heroes so much.
Do you find it easier to illustrate something when you're given a lot of information and background, or when you're given very little and you're able to think of it on your own?
Both. Mostly the research is all done on my end. If somebody says, I want a drawing of this character or that character, part of the artist's job that I enjoy because it's part of my ongoing education is to do the research involved. You wouldn't believe how much research goes into doing a comic book. It's a lot of work, and it's also part of the thing that gets you, the more you have to go through to get that story down in drawings, the more rewarding it is in the end. It's tough in the beginning because you're coming into a cold start every single time. But slowly you start to get past that hump.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when the work becomes very enriching to the inside of the artist that you are.
This is the first piece of your work I ever saw, and I instantly was like, I gotta find out more about this guy or this artist. Can you tell me a little bit about how you came up with this image?
Yeah, well, first of all, I have to feel the scene. I have to rely on my emotions to tell me what I need to feel before I put something down on paper.
Mm-hmm.
And what I felt was, well, in this case, I actually did, for Hulk versus Superman, I did about 5 or 6 roughs for this one right here.
Okay.
And which is not uncommon, sometimes more, to get it down. You do whatever you have to get the image that you see in your head down. And when I settled in this one, what I felt was blinding impact. And the other two things that I'm really big on when I do these two characters is doing the original characters, the original Jack Kirby Hulk, and the original Joe Siegel or Joe Shuster Superman,
Hmm.
or the Fleischer Superman, as it's interchangeably called sometimes. So that's what I was thinking when I did this right here.
Were the other versions different poses, different scenes, or was it similar action, just different aesthetic, different color?
Different poses. They were always engaged in combat, being different poses. You know, they kind of came across in a way different from the one I ended up doing, which is right here.
Hmm. So these are also some of my other favorite covers that you've done. Uh, I'm sure you remember some of these, hopefully fondly.
I remember everything I ever did, like it was like almost like it's been photographically imprinted in my head.
Really?
The one on the left, I didn't think I pulled off very well. I don't think I liked the way the water turned out. It also may have been
Huh.
too hard for me to. It was more difficult than it was fun. So I tend to have um, uh, not as pleasant memories as I could have, say, with other pieces. The Spider-Man one I had a lot of fun with.
Mhm.
That turned out great. I really loved it. The third one, the X-Men piece, I liked because it was
These three images for me show kind of like your skill set, like with the Thor one, it's like scale. There's so many details in it. I'm always like looking around to see how many people are in Loki's hand. So I always thought that was fun.
sometimes when I look at things and I instantly see that because it's not good enough to me, I would redo it. And the Loki one is something I would redo to get more scale, more drama,
Oh,
and maybe learn how to paint water a little better.
really? Would you say water is like your kryptonite a little bit?
Well, I
Or is
wouldn't
it?
use comic book terminology with something like that. I just, as much as I study it before I would do something like this, I know that I simply don't get it in my head, and that bothers me.
Is it
I don't
like,
like failing so often in something like water.
huh? Like water in motion or water? Um,
Technically, drawing and painting water to make it look like the real thing, like in this
oh,
case, a lot of heavy waves. So here we
yeah.
have a lot of black and white work that's colored with marker, then in full-blown paintings here. Well, in the case of this X-Men cover down here, or the FF cover, to me, I just think about the kind of paper stock that I'm working on, which is kind of funny stuff. It doesn't take water very well, like watercolor.
Hmm.
It does take marker very well. So that's the extent of how I think about the blank covers. It's the cover stock and how slick it is, or how difficult it is to apply something like paint to. The other ones, I just done a regular Bristol,
Ah,
and those are just marker renderings. Sometimes they have a few touches of colored pencil in them. And the Wonder Woman fully painted one in Uma Thurman are products of mixed media. They're basically watercolor, transparent, and opaque with touches of colored pencils added to round out the form a little more,
hmm.
which is something I've been working with, this mixed media watercolor color pencil thing for quite a while now.
Yeah, I think it looks great. When when you're talking about the descriptions you get for commissions,
Yeah.
um, do you normally get descriptions on the environment that they're supposed to be in or the action that they're doing? Um, like for the Wonder Woman one, did the person say, "I want Wonder Woman running through, a war zone with her shield blocking"? Was it like that descriptive, or is it kind of like, "I just want Wonder Woman in an action pose," and then you kind of figured it out on your own?
Well, like with the Wonder Woman thing, I'm sure it was pretty standard request, which is Wonder Woman in an action pose. And the Doctor Doom one might have said something like, I want Doom in a regal pose. But the Galactus one, the Iron Fist one, and the Marvel Girl one, entirely up to me. And Uma Thurman, same thing. Same with Magneto back there. It's all up to me. I mean, if you can't conjure up these things fairly quickly in your mind, maybe you're in the wrong profession.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, as soon as someone says the character name, you should instantly already have, 2 or 3 ideas, right?
Well, amazingly, Mark, the thing that I've noticed that you can never anticipate or predict of what's going to happen as the decades go by now is right now the ideas come to me so fast. It's some of them literally come like at the snap of a finger. It's very strange. So instead of doing what you would expect people to do that have been doing the same thing for so long, the ideas actually come almost instantaneously, which is very interesting to note.
Oh.
The Wonder Woman one, I remember just pushing and pushing to get this insane feeling of rushing into a force that's almost trying to destroy her. And that's why this one turned out in a way that I really thought I pulled it off.
Mm-hmm.
The lighting looks great. It was taken from obviously a Wonder Woman still.
Yeah.
But I changed so much of it, which is what happens when I get my hands on something. It just becomes a different entity based on the feelings that I have about something, which are, my emotions are very strong. And I will just, it's a funny thing, and that's the whole purpose of what I'm trying to do is get gut reactions from people. I always tell people I don't care anything about the long drawn out hypothesis about the colors or the emotions or what they had for breakfast. I don't care about that. What I want them to react to specifically is an immediate gut reaction.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because that's all that matters when you're doing this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Let the college boys go into dissertations about this crap. I just want them to feel something.
Yeah.
So that's what I set about to do.
Any thoughts on the covers you did for Action Comics 1000 and Detective Comics 1000? Just because, there's been just so many images of both Superman and Batman that's been done. Did you have to think really hard on trying to make an image that no one's ever seen before, or was it easy for you to just come up with something new?
In this case, it was not. It was hard. I really did have to think. I mean, Mark Chiarello, the art director for these 2 books, gave me the chance to be the very first artist to paint a cover for these 2 landmark books here. And the Superman one was actually inspired by a painting that I've always loved from Norman Rockwell. It's a painting that's never seen unless you knew about the famous artist books from the 1950s. And it was a pose of Samson from the movie Samson and Delilah. It was, so what we have here is a picture of all the famous artists from that era, but 12 of them all together. Huh. And they were all showing the work they had been commissioned by for Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer for the movie Samson and Delilah. They all had a chance. They were all commissioned to do their version of that. And Rockwell had not only the largest original that he was holding up, but it was also the simplest. And it was just this incredibly powerful chiaroscuro thing of Samson standing in the middle of the pillars. And I thought, God, is there a way I can get that energy and that force and that drama in one that doesn't look like I ripped them off? Because nobody ever wants to do that.
Yeah.
And that's what I came up with, along with a little narrative, a funny narrative with these guys with these emblems on them, to give a sense of story, a possible story to the background of what's going on here. And that's just my natural storytelling instincts taking over with what I do. You know, give them something to contemplate. Who are these guys that are firing? They shouldn't be nameless. They should have a sense of a history behind them, however remote. And that's what I set about to do.
Yeah, I really love that. I didn't realize that the emblems were, they appeared on both covers. Like now they kind of tie in together. I'm just like, whoa, you created a world. I didn't even realize.
Well, in fact, I didn't even realize it myself when I did Batman. I just, it was about, I think, you know, the last stage of a piece like this is always holding it up against a wall about 10 feet away.
Right.
And I look at it and I look at it, and I'm able to see things that I never could have seen either in the original thumbnail, colored thumbnail stage, or when I'm working, you know, a foot away from the images. I paint every little stupid thing in there. And one of the things I think I came up with was, let's put the emblem on these guys here. I mean, they're kind of wearing the same outfits, so it's just kind of a bizarre synchronicity that how these things come together sometimes. I don't even understand it myself.
Yeah.
But it's a very organic thing, and it just seems to happen on its own.
You're really,
yeah, this is great, yeah.
You're really tall.
Yeah, I'm 6'5.5", so
wow.
I've got very strong Norwegian blood going on there.
Yeah, I was really surprised by this. I was like, holy smokes, you're a giant.
Yeah, Neil is probably about 5'9", 5'8".
Sure.
At this point in his life, I don't know. So he's not a tall guy.
No, but wow. Did you ever play basketball?
I was never good at team sports.
Mm.
I was always good at one-on-one kind of stuff. That's where I felt happiest and the most challenged is one-on-one stuff. In other words, me against me.
Right.
I wanted to see what I was made of. But yeah, that's a great shot of me and Neil. I think Neil is the greatest. I just think he's the greatest guy. Whenever I see him, I just light up and want to run over and hang out with him.
Yeah, he seems like I've never met him. He's on my bucket list of creators to say hi to. But yeah, he seems like a jolly fellow.
And he's I just love his work ethic. He's always working, and he never burns out. I think he's got the energy that he had when he was in his late 20s. Now that he's in his late 70s, I would imagine. Kirby is one of my great role models. I have 3 role models in life. One is Captain Kirk, the other is Bruce Lee,
oh, wow.
and the last one is Jack Kirby. Having met him and having gotten to know him was a life changer, a literal life changer in every sense of the word.
Oh, you got to Jack Kirby. You got to meet him?
Absolutely.
Wow.
I met everybody. I was born in a time where by the time I got into the business, I was able to meet every single founding father of our business. So now that I have done that, and now that all of them are gone, just like the World War II veterans or various astronauts that made history, landed on the moon and things like that, it's up to someone like me to pass on what I knew about those people. And the people I know are stellar human beings, not just in their talents, but in their character, which I put a premium on myself.
I'm really thankful I got to speak with you, and I hope I get to speak with you again soon.
Okay, Mark, it's a sure thing.
All right, take care. Bye.
I'll see you later.